Good evening and welcome to the Fred Hampton Leftist special broadcast this evening. We are Disability Roundtable, and my name is James Fauntleroy, also known as JB Font on Twitter. I want to welcome you all to this special broadcast that we'll be doing this evening. This is going to be a discussion about what we go through as people with disabilities, as well as those of us who are caretakers of those of us who are, with disabilities, as well as how we are treated societally as well as systemically, and how this intersects with Medicare, healthcare, and the March for Medicare for All. So I want to welcome all of you for joining us. Please pour into the chats. And also, we will be answering any questions that you guys may be having in the chats. I want to thank all of you for joining in. I would like to introduce all my guests. We're going to go in a clockwise fashion. I want to introduce Miranda. Is that I pronounce your name correctly?
It is.
Okay, great. Miranda, Joe, Stephanie, Savage Joy, David, and Brandy. I want to welcome you all. Thank you so much. Uh, First off, I would like to give the floor uh, to my guests. Miranda, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe, if you're comfortable, to let us know what disability that you have that you are dealing with?
My name's Marinda Darnell. I am a homeless disabled veteran. I am a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and my disabilities are military related due to physical injuries, PTSD, combat sexual trauma, and also autoimmune disorders.
Thank you very much. Joe, what disability, or you said you're a caretaker, correct?
Correct,
So,
yes.
yeah, so please elaborate on that.
Yes, my name is Joe Sherry. I'm from Topeka, Kansas, and I am a caregiver to an adult son with cerebral palsy. He went into cardiac arrest and lung failure straight out of the birth canal, and I've been a single caretaker taking care of him since he was about eight, well, uh, let's see, he's 21 now, so um, for about 20 years, I've been taking care of him by myself.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. Stephanie?
Yes, so physically I have an autoimmune disease that's genetic. It's called ankylosing spondylitis. I also have complex PTSD that is partially caused by growing up poor and being denied medical care. I grew up in like a trailer park and slums and that sort of thing. And so I grew up around a lot of disability, and it's intergenerational. So I come from communities where the caretakers are just as sick as the people they're taking care of.
Thank you so much. Joy?
19 months ago, I woke up with most of my eyesight gone, and now I am 85% blind. So this is quite recent.
Okay. David?
Hey, David Zoltan. I'm a housing, healthcare, and disability activist. My disabilities include a Pokemon database worth of different catch-em-all sorts of things, but I am an amputee, a diabetic. I have spinal problems, problems with arthritis caused by all sorts of other stuff. So it can be a long list, and sometimes I forget half of them myself. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Brandy?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with David a little bit. about 14 years ago, I got sick. I was having a rough pregnancy because I was carrying twins. And I wound up with a sinus infection that turned into bronchitis, double pneumonia, respiratory distress, and septic failure. So they put me in a medically induced coma. My twins were born at 27 weeks, 2 days into it.
Wow.
And so my long-term effects, I have asthma due to bronchitis and pneumonia.
Wow.
I have radiculopathy and neuropathy due to the fact that I wound up going through muscle atrophy because I spent 3 weeks in the coma and postpartum to where your hips are still not back. So that caused permanent damage with my hips, which throws my back out. And on up, deal with chronic migraines and all that stuff. It's a list. I now have a couple different, I have fibromyalgia and I have chronic inflammatory disease as well.
Wow. And Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Powers. I guess I would say that I'm a advocate at large. I have a severe mental illness and physical illness. I have movement disorders related to the medications that they gave me when they considered me psychotic. And I had to tell them eventually that I wasn't psychotic and I needed to stop taking the medication. So I'm not taking that medication now, but now I'm taking medication to undo the tremors. I have Parkinsonism. I have a stand-up walker so I don't fall over. In fact, this week I fell over once on the bus because the people wouldn't like let me get in an area where I would be safe. I take public transportation. If it weren't for public transportation, though, I wouldn't get anywhere. I really wouldn't get anywhere. As far as getting like a pace service, I'm thinking maybe I'll try and do that to get to places where they're really hard to get to. But today I had to leave the drop-in center where I go to almost every day because the elevator wasn't working, and at 1:00 they said, well, anybody who can't do the stairs has to go downstairs now. We'll get a guy here who can make the elevator work, and you have to leave at 1:00, and everybody else got to stay for 2 more hours. And I am PO'd, David. You know I'm PO'd. And I don't know exactly how what they did. I said, I'm going to write a letter. They know me. And they said, well, you don't do that because I said, and this is an ADA violation. You're going to get fined. And don't do that. We don't have enough money. If you do that, where will people go? People won't have anywhere to go. Like it's my fault that they're not accessible. And I just walked out the door saying, if you can't make this place fully accessible, it should be closed.
That's true. And thank you so much for that.
Okay. You got me today.
First of all, one of the things that I also wanted to do, I would like to thank the 2 people who, one of them, she wasn't able to be here tonight, but I wanted to thank her, is Miss Kathy. And I also wanted to thank one of the people who's watching right now, one of our activist comrades and friends to the show, Alan Max Axelrod. The idea came really a birth from both of them when I did a video about disability on July 4th during our marathon. It was first proposed by Alan Max Axelrod about doing a disability roundtable. And then Mrs. Carter, she she went in and said, "Well, why don't you do it in conjunction with the March for Medicare for All?" And boom, it came to this. And so I just really want to thank the two of them for putting in their ideas and allowing this to happen. And I just like to thank Mrs. Carter and Alan Max Axelrod for uh, being tireless and helping me organize this event. So I want to thank them for that. So one of the things that I want to first go to is, you know, of course we know already how these things affect us. Um, I want to put this question out to the panel. Since having your disability, what challenges have there been as far as dealing with societal issues as well as systemic issues? What has been your experience? I would like to start off with Miranda. You were the last one to speak, so I would like to get your perspective on that aspect.
Wow, that is. I think I could probably speak for 3 hours just myself on that, but I'll try not to, to do that.
Mhm.
I've been disabled all but 1 year of my adult life, which that's been over 20 years now. I first became disabled when I was on active duty, and it's been a fight my entire adult life now. I worked until I was 35 years old, and I got out of the military when I was 21. I had to fight for any kind of accommodations. Most of the time, those accommodations didn't happen, and I was specifically told by my last employer that they don't want to hear that ADA bleep, and that I did not rate as a person. They did not believe I was disabled because sometimes I could walk, sometimes I couldn't, and they thought I was faking it because of that fact that I could sometimes walk and sometimes not. Once I lost that job because of my disabilities, I decided to apply for Social Security. It took 3 years to get it. 3 years of only my VA disability, which thankfully I had in order to pay some bills. I lived eating out of food pantries exclusively for 3 years. I could pay my rent and my utilities and nothing else because of the military disability, and so many people don't have that. Finally, after 3 years and going before a magistrate, I was granted it. And the magistrate didn't understand why I was denied 3 times by Social Security because he said my case was very straightforward. But in my experience, it's been a systemic issue where disabled people have to have the energy to fight. They have to know the right words to say to fight. And many of them don't have it. They don't have that support. And that's a massive fail as a society and also systemically. The government would rather deny us the benefits that we've paid into for years, the benefits that we as a society should be lifting up our disabled people. Instead, we're not getting lifted up. We're not getting the help. And that's a sign of somebody who is not in a civilized society because they don't take care of their poor, they're hungry, they're tired. After getting my disability, I still had to fight. It was probably a month before my mother died that she finally acknowledged I was disabled and not faking it.
Mm.
And I have found that to be true for so many people.
Mhm.
That society looks at you and says, oh, you were able to stand out of your wheelchair. Oh, you're actually walking today. You're fine. You're so young. You're fine. Go work. You're being lazy. And that's totally not the case. My disabilities are generally hidden. They're usually not visible.
Thank you so much, Miss Miranda. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Miranda, I can relate to that so much. Talk about the energy.
Yes.
Everything is a fight. Every darn thing is a fight. And, to keep yourself together, you have to take care of yourself, which means not fighting 100% of the time. I know what you're saying. I'd like to see us get together a group of how we can fight. Like maybe we have a tag team. Like you fight today and somebody else fights tomorrow. That would be wonderful. I'm so tired of fighting. I have a fused back. I have a revised knee, and that's starting to give out. And it's just like I don't know.
Well,
We need
Steve pointed out in the comments that so many people have disabilities. Well, I would like to point out that most people have disabilities. Somebody has glasses. That's actually a prosthetic.
Yeah.
And you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. But we recognize everybody having glasses as being normal.
Hmm.
And people don't think it's a disability, but it actually is because your eyes are no longer functioning in the proper way. So you have to have an assistive device.
Yeah.
There aren't really good statistics on this. In fact, I'm known as a policy wonk in many circles, and the best numbers I can come up with, because they range so drastically, is around 19% of the population has a disability of some kind. I would say that that's probably a little bit higher, but we need to really better define what disability is, including especially our autistic comrades
Yes.
and people with various forms of intellectual and developmental disabilities that aren't often seen in many circles as being disabled. The many disabilities as well that Miranda was talking about, that people are suffering with. With my back problems, people were constantly asking me, why am I walking strangely today when they weren't necessarily used to seeing me walk oddly, and it's because my back was an intermittent problem.
Yeah.
And because of that, it was very difficult to diagnose. It was very difficult to get treatment. It was very difficult to be treated in a humane way and with any dignity. And many folks, experience stuff like that. And that's not right. We should be creating environments and creating systems that help us all to have healthy, wonderful lives, where we can contribute to our families, to our worlds, to our friends, to our communities in whatever ways we can.
I want to also give a thank to the super chats that we have been having coming in. JX, thank you for the super chat. And I just want to highlight again what he said. Just wanted to say I love all of you. We love you as well. Thank you so much for your support. Also to another super chat from Steve Wolfbrandt. Boycott Frito-Lay products to support the strikers. Absolutely. I almost cussed. Absolutely. I gotta watch my language. But absolutely,
Yes.
we
As
need to do
somebody who
that.
lives in Topeka, Kansas, thank you, Steve.
Yes, because this is something that we need to do. This is it just is an issue that's also close to our hearts as well. So we should not be remiss to mention that. I appreciate that. Okay. As far as my question about how societal treatments go and systemic treatments, Joe, you are a caretaker. Please elaborate on how you've been taking care of your son.
Well, a few years ago, we were cut off of our home and community-based supports because AmeriGroup decided that because we weren't using our waiver, that we did not need it anymore. So since 2018, I have been taking care of my son by myself with no assistance from the state. In case he gets sick, I have nobody here to come help me get him to the hospital. If I have to take him to the hospital, I have nobody to sit with him if in case I need to go use the restroom or step out for whatever reason. I've been in a fight with the state of Kansas for 3 or 4 years now, trying to get our services restored, and I have used every tactic I can think of to try to get somebody to engage with us. I've exposed people for taking money from the insurance companies within the state Medicaid system. We have Dems and Republicans that have been taking the money from the insurance companies within CanCare. Currently, our 3 insurance companies are Aetna and United and Sunflower. And, my senator has ignored us. My then senator, who is now the governor, has been ignoring us. Every Dem legislator in the state house has been ignoring this problem. If in order for me to get us back on the waiver, we have to come in under crisis. Well, crisis for me, for our household, would have to look like I'm neglecting Anthony in some way. And considering the way I grew up, that is not okay with me because I was removed from our house when I was a young kid. So it's just been a very big struggle taking care of him by myself. His father has been in and out of prison, and so I've never had any help from his father. I've had to fight to get child support from his father. The only time he ever pays it is if it's being garnished from his wages, or when he was in prison, garnished from his prison wages. Yeah, it's just been a very big struggle. Yeah, and I would love sometime just somebody to say, "Hey, Joe, how are you doing today? How
Yeah.
can I help you with Anthony?" Just somebody just to do that, just out of, because it's supposed to be the thing to do.
Hmm.
And I mean, I love my son with everything in my heart, man. I mean, Joy follows me on Twitter. She knows how much I advocate for Anthony in every possible way I possibly can.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to lie that as a caregiver, and especially when you have no help, it's mentally exhausting. And, I don't have anybody here. It's just me. This is my support system, being on Twitter, engaging with other people that are like our household or other people with disabilities, so that I feel like I'm not alone out here. And so, yeah, it's very isolating.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
then you have people, I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing about that. But then you have people saying, well, she's lazy. She doesn't want to work. She wants to mooch off the system. She's a welfare queen and this and everything else. It's like, no, I'm trapped in this system, people. I can't work because I don't have anybody to take care of Anthony. And then if I do decide to work, then I get cut off of the services that we so desperately need.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to talk about that too. I would love to talk about that. Stephanie, societal issues that you have to deal with, as well as systemic issues that you have to deal with your disability?
Yeah. So some big ones for me, and I've had many different ways that the medical field, psychiatry have impacted my life. But growing up at one point, uh, when I was 12, my father has mental illness. There was an estate. He's got like a conservatorship sort of thing set up. Um, he was having a lot of mental health problems, and that caused a lot of issues for my mother. Like the police weren't really helpful. We weren't getting any mental health services. Um, and we wound up like having to live in an abandoned building. I was starved during puberty, and my grades started dropping in school, and so they made me take a bunch of tests, and they found out that I was very smart, so they couldn't understand why my grades were bad. They diagnosed me with ADHD, um, and then they began prescribing Ritalin to me, methylphenidate, as a stimulant. Um, but didn't address the housing issue or the hunger or I didn't get a medical doctor. Like it was very weird that I was having all of these physical problems associated with PTSD as well, and they pathologized me and medicated me in a way that made me manageable to them, instead of looking at my body and mind as a holistic unit that was developing and growing and needed support. And so that really messed up things for my health further down the line. I'm still seeing the consequences of that show up. Those environmental factors absolutely impact autoimmune diseases that are gene mediated as well. So after I had gotten older, I developed ankylosing spondylitis, but it took over 5 years to get a diagnosis for it. And I started having the issues when I was at college. And it was the first time in my life I'd ever had health insurance. So I was going to the student center, and they would just tell me all sorts of weird things because my symptoms were so weird. I had rashes, I had high iron, I had swelling organs, and they just kept giving me Ativan, telling me to take a nap and calm down.
Wow.
Yeah. So they basically diagnosed me as hysterical at University of Illinois instead of giving me physical medical treatment. And so when I started going to rheumatology and that sort of thing, and then they actually started doing tests on like genetic markers, family history, that sort of stuff, I eventually got a diagnosis. But I didn't have good health insurance. I had to move away, and I had to give up residential custody of one of my kids because there was a backlog on Medicaid for the state at the time. And that was before I was diagnosed. So I thought I was dying. I couldn't get healthcare. So I had to move to a different state to get healthcare. And when I returned, I am married. We had wanted to get a divorce, but he has health insurance, and like we love our family. And I had met somebody else, and so we had been separated so that I could get treatment for my disease. Right? I had met somebody else, and we wanted to get married. But then you've got this weird thing where it's like, well, I was taking biologics and methotrexate and like all of these really heavy duty medicines that were very expensive. And it's like, okay, well, if I want to get married, I can't have a lapse in coverage. And so how do you do like a divorce and a custody agreement and then a marriage all in the span of the same amount of time? And we have to look at the window for when I could get on the new spouse's insurance, right? And this and that, like all of these parts. And then the social aspect of the Trump administration and the way that they were coming after LGBTQ rights, and the partner that I was going to marry, the same gender as me. And it was terrifying. It was a lot of fear where it was like, well, if we do this and it doesn't work out right, or we lose marriage rights and healthcare rights, which they've been attacking on like state levels in weird ways with domestic partnerships and all sorts of weird stuff, like there's this real terror that I could die because I just don't have insurance. But I can't apply for disability while I'm married, but like I can't get divorced because I won't have health insurance. And like you can't get state health insurance without going through, but like applying for disability takes multiple years. And so I'm basically like, according to the state of Illinois, I'm just basically my husband's dead weight, and it's a platonic marriage. It's really, really dehumanizing.
Wow. Wow.
And then there are the issues with trying to explain queerness and sexuality and that sort of stuff. I went in for an endoscopy, and my partner was very butch, and the nurse was like, "Is your dad gonna come back with you?" And I'm like, "He's here." They're like, "I mean, your husband? Like, he's here?" What is that? "Oh, that's my girlfriend." Like, no, I won't be needing a pregnancy test. Like there are these sort of interactions where these people don't necessarily have cultural competency either. So like socially, it's very difficult because I already feel dehumanized before I get in the door by the state, and then you go into the cultural experience of the interactions, and like every part of your identity is just sort of like a box to check as to whether or not they need to consider you more or less diseased is how it feels. Right? Like whether it's your weight, whether it's your height,
right,
sexuality, like all of it. They're just like, okay, well, how are we going to judge what's wrong with you based on these answers on a scale of 1 to 10? And I don't know. It's very hard. It's very dehumanizing, I think, is the way that it feels, no matter what angle I've been involved.
Thank you so much for that.
Joy popped up in the comments saying that they're going through their appeals. Don't give up. Keep those appeals going. Appeal it as soon as you can, and don't give up. Get yourself before that magistrate. And when you're talking to them, it's like it's your worst day. Tell them just how bad it is, and don't skimp on it. Be as blunt as you possibly can.
Yes.
You can get this.
Thank you. Yeah. I want to give attention to Miss Kathy. So the same question: what societal issues have you had to deal with, as well as systemic issues that you had to deal with regarding your disability?
I'm so tired of having to talk about what's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? It's disability is a condition of life. Everybody has some kind of disability, whether it's recognized or not. And I'm only officially now physically disabled because I have this Cadillac walker now, because people say, "Oh, well, I'm not any different than I was before I got my Cadillac walker. I just don't fall down as much anymore." I would like to be acknowledged for what's right with me. And I would like for all of us to keep that in mind, that there's more right with us than what society would call is wrong with us. We're not wrong, we're people.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you. There is definitely more right with us than there is wrong with us.
We are not just our disabilities.
Yes. Joy, your disability is somewhat recent, within the last 18 months. So I'm sure that you've experienced a lot of societal as well as systemic issues. Please elaborate.
I feel myself already getting emotional listening to you guys. my heart goes out to you guys so much. Yeah, so about 19 months ago, I woke up without the majority of my eyesight. It was sudden and it was permanent. And I went to the hospital because I wasn't sure what was going on. And they did some testing and they diagnosed me with something called myopic degeneration. It's very rare, especially in people under 55. So I knew right then that things were going to be, up against me because it was so rare. So then became, this the 5 stages of grieving, where it's like acceptance, denial, bargaining and stuff. Well, like that immediately happened. They have it wrong. My sight's coming back, whatever. I'm young. They know nothing. If there's any kind of exception, it's me. Something like this wouldn't happen to me. I've never heard of it. It's not in my family. And you start going through these like attempts at rationalizations to try and help yourself get through it. So I really tried desperately to keep working. And when I would hear someone walking by, I would type like this. And when I would see someone walking by, I would just like this. Because I didn't want anyone to see that I was literally holding my keyboard up to my face. And like the screen to my face. I was determined to hide it as long as I could, because why would I admit it and then my sight comes back and I don't have a job? So basically I went from 53 words per minute to 14 words per minute with mistakes. And I couldn't hide it anymore. I mean, I just couldn't. And a lot of people say, well, that's illegal. They can't fire you. Yes, they can.
They can.
Yeah. And it's not just one state. Like, I consulted a lawyer. I was contracted. They had absolutely every right to fire me. They had no obligation to accommodate me with a bigger screen, bigger keyboard, like, etc. They had absolutely no obligation for that. I can't drive, so I was literally spending over $500 a month just on Uber, getting to and from work. So it was like all these changes. And then I had to start calling out of work when I was still working all the time, because when you are having eye treatments, you obviously can't see anything for the rest of the day. Trigger warning, because it's bad. But I was getting eye injections, and yes, it's even worse than it sounds. And they were each eye every 30 days, $12,000. And I had insurance, but they kept denying it, saying that it was not medically necessary. So I asked my doctor, is this some kind of kink? Who would ask for eye injections unless they needed them? So the doctors would want me to sign, waivers saying that if insurance didn't, grant the appeal, I would have to pay $24,000 every 30 days. Now, these eye injections did not bring sight back. What they did was they tried to help keep the very little sight I had left. So, when you're dealing with this, so I'm dealing with trying to, the trauma of all of us not being able to see. And then that's exacerbated by me having to try and appeal to even get any kind of treatment. And, from there, it got worse and worse. I absolutely agree with the whole Social Security system. it took me several months to even apply because I was in such denial. I am not disabled. Yeah, I can see. I can do some kind of different job. There's something I can do. No, I'm not disabled. And then my doctor kept asking me for months, Joy, apply for disability. I'm like, I would get so pissed at him, and I'd be like, why are you trying to make me feel defeatist? No, I'm not. I can get another job. So I would keep applying for jobs, and I would get them. And then they would say, okay, we just need you to take this typing test as a technicality. We're sorry, now we take back we rescind the offer. So I couldn't I thought, well, if I can figure my way in there, maybe I can keep going. But, I couldn't. And finally, I just gave up and I applied for disability. It took 18 months. And so I know that I'm kind of lucky in that effect. My husband does work full time. So I had that privilege. But the hell they put you through. Like, I'm literally 85% blind, and they had me fill out over 100 pages of paperwork, literally over 100 pages. And I sent over 200 pages of medical documentation. I mean, it was every day I was getting new packets. Like, now fill this out, now fill that out. And all the while you're like, are they even going to approve this? So finally I got approved. And I get my first check supposedly next Wednesday. And I would, be like really excited about it, except it solidifies the fact that I'm disabled, which I'm not a fan of. I'd actually rather work. But B, they decided that I get no back pay whatsoever because I didn't become disabled till December, which is the biggest bunch of shit. My doctor was like, she literally hasn't been able to see in 19 months. And then for some reason, disability is like, oh, even when you're approved, you have to wait an additional 5 months before you get any kind of payment. So I took out my entire 401k. Like, I just, and I have insurance, but it was still thousands of medical bills coming in. Then I had, blind accessibility equipment. So as an English major, I couldn't read a book for over a year and a half because I couldn't afford the prescription equipment to let me read. Things like that. None of that stuff is paid for. None of it, even a fraction. It's a luxury. So as far as societal, one thing that I'm dealing with is I recently got a cane. And I didn't want it, but I'm working with PA Association of the Blind. And so they just kind of like gave me one. And a woman, a mobility expert, has been coming to the house for visits, like training me how to walk with it, how to go up steps with it and stuff, because I fall a lot. I walk into the wall a lot. I mean, it's reality. But even though I can't see, when I go places, I can feel people staring at me. I can feel it. And I can feel, and every single time somebody's, makes a comment, they go, you're so young. It's the head tilt and I don't want your pity. I don't want it. I will, your compassion, cool. Your empathy, cool. I don't want your pity. It's actually incredibly patronizing when people, act like that to disabled people. So, and then during COVID, a lot of the stores, when you go in stores, they have arrows. This aisle, you go this way, that aisle, you go that way. I couldn't see the arrows. So I was constantly getting, ma'am, you're walking the wrong way and stuff like that. Or, people behind me when I'm trying to use a debit card and I put it in the wrong way, and they're like, it's beeping because you're doing it backwards and things like that. It's like, oh my God, I am sorry. Like, people can just be so ableist and so just egregious. So I guess I just want people to be more understanding.
Yeah.
I have to ask people for things. And I'm independent. I don't like to plug in my charger. I have to ask my husband to do it. I can't do it. To put a pen cap on could take me 5 minutes. Things like that. So now I'm finding myself going out with my friends and saying, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. You get to walk me. And you feel like this toddler, so I hope that people can be more understanding of the loss of so much independence that all of us feel as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Joy. I definitely identify in some way, shape, or form with you're going through as far as being new to this. Um, Miss Cat. Mr. David. Societal issues regarding dealing with people, as well as systemic issues dealing with people who are disabled.
I've got stories going back pretty much my whole life, so I'll be a little selective here for you. I don't want to bore everyone, but I've had ADHD my entire life, and dealing with that has always, especially in school, was always a complication. I developed diabetes very young. I was in first grade, and that's actually a little old for most people to get diabetes. So I had a bit of a learning curve and so forth. But over the course of time, all of these things started to take their toll. When I was in high school, I had a polynidal cyst that I had surgery on, and my my mom would have to pack the wound. And one night, while she was taking out the gauze, all of a sudden, blood starts squirting, and I trigger warning here, I guess, about blood and surgery and such. But blood starts coming out and it just spurting like an artery had been hit. And the doctors didn't believe her. After about an hour and a half or 2 hours of me bleeding, finally we said, okay, we're not listening to the doctors anymore. We're going to the hospital. We'll get in the car and go. I tried to stand up, and that was the first time that I was at a 10 on the pain scale, and blacked out, fell down, and just was incapacitated from the pain of having all that blood loss. The ambulance came. They stabilized me as best they could. When they did my blood work, my blood sugar was 20, which is drastically low. And
God, wow.
Yeah, and my blood pressure matched, by the way. It was also 20, which you'll notice I'm only saying one number there because it was 20 over 0.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So one of several times I've been very, very close to death. But when we got to the hospital, the doctors told us, despite everything that the ambulance crew reported and everything like that, the doctor that saw us in the hospital said, "Oh, it's just my mom overreacting." despite the numbers, despite everything. So even within the medical field, there's tremendous amount of ableism and just non-belief of the people who are actually experiencing all of these things. During the first the Great Recession, I got let go from my company at the time that I was working here in Chicago, or just outside of Chicago. But I was here in Chicago and spent just under 3 years unemployed, and I had no health insurance for that time as a diabetic, which is, let me tell you, terrifying. There were several incidents where I had to go to the emergency room to deal with things that should have been fairly, common hypoglycemias, but mostly also because I didn't have insulin. So I needed to go to the ER just to get insulin to survive. This was just before Obamacare popped in. So after 2 years, Obamacare came online, thankfully. And, so that last year of it, I did spend on Medicaid. But there was an incident at that point. This was well after my back had started. My back had started acting up in 2000. I've been dealing with that for a decade, 2 decades now. But I literally felt I had to drive myself to the ER because I couldn't afford the ambulance. A friend of mine tried to stay on the phone with me to help me get there safely, as I was literally screaming in pain at a 10 on the pain scale again. Forgot about all the other hospitals in town and could only think about Northwestern downtown. Drove all the way down there, got to the parking lot, tried to get out of the car, and I literally couldn't walk. That's how bad my back had gotten. I ended up arm crawling over to one of the emergency boxes. The ambulance came, took me the 1 block to the ER. I got charged for the ambulance anyways, as it turns out. And even as I'm screaming in the ER, they didn't believe I was in pain. Mm-hmm. Most recently, my life fell apart about 6 years ago or so. I had been running a bar in the city here, Geek Bar Chicago. We had some trouble, but everything kind of collapsed all at once. And at the same time, my personal life fell apart. I was kicked out of my apartment. I ended up homeless. Thankfully, not on the streets because of friends who put me up in various places. And otherwise, I would be dead because of all the medications that I have to keep refrigerated and so forth. But I was pretty desperate for work, for anything that I could try to restabilize my life. Because I can't go without food. I literally can't go without any of these things. I finally got an apartment based off of the fact that a friend was able to get me a job, but it was a job doing menial work, which with my back, I shouldn't be doing. But I had to accept it because it was the only option I had. And my time, jumping between friends who were able to help me was running out. So I took that job, and at one point, I had to move some tables, and a table fell on my foot. unbeknownst to me, and the doctors didn't catch it in time, my foot was broken. It got infected, and the infection got into the bone. That because of the diabetes, that it ended up spreading, and they weren't able to get ahead of the infection. And that's the only reason I didn't have to go through the appeal process, is because they actually had to chop parts of my foot off. Which that should tell you something right there. When I can get, you have to have pieces removed from yourself before they're going to actually believe you about needing the disability. So there was that small positive, but even then, I've spent the last 5 years or so in abject poverty. Without the help of friends and family, I couldn't survive. My rent right now is about $1,100, and that's how much I get in Social Security. I have SNAP benefits, thankfully, but I can't keep high assets. They have asset limits on that.
Yep.
So I have to remain poor to be able to get that help. I've been fighting for a housing voucher for a long time. I might have one soon, but PHA isn't exactly very communicative, and so I don't know for certain that when it's going to kick in, or if there are even further problems, I'll kick it even further down the road, as it already has been. But yeah, I mean, without family and friends right now, I would be dead. There's no question about it. Yeah. I'm thankful that, I do have the support I have, and I use that to try to turn around and make things better for everybody else. That's why I'm policy wonk. It's why I fight as hard as I do for people's housing, for their health care, for disability rights, and for liberation.
Wow. Whew. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your story. Also, I just want to give attention to a super chat from Christine. Thank you so much for your super chat. I would like to thank you for that. I'm trying to remember who's okay. Forget how many people we have in here. Okay. Miss Brandy. So the same question to you. The systemic issues that you've had to deal with, as well as the societal issues you've had to deal with regarding your disability.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to some of the others. I've got PTSD for multiple things. We experienced a lot of abuse as kids. And then my mother died when I was 12 of cancer. I've got the PTSD from the medical trauma as well. So I don't like new people. I don't like new doctors because I don't like having to repeat myself over and over again.
Exactly.
I went through about probably the first 6 years of not having medical insurance, healthcare coverage at all. And so the only time that I got treatment was when I was sick with pneumonia or bronchitis again and with my dad in the emergency room. Then the emergency room doctors are not always that great to deal with. And all that polite, because it's more of, why are you here? You should be at your doctor's office. Well, I don't have insurance, so I don't have a doctor. That's been one thing that I fought with for years. So then I got my kids stable because I said my twins were born early. They were 27 weekers. And my daughter had a 3rd-degree brain bleed at 6 days old. She had to have surgery. They spent 3.5 and 4 months in the NICU, come home, and then for over a year, it was waking up every 3 hours doing feeds and medicines because she had the Mickey button G tube. And basically, I didn't sleep. So I wasn't taking care of myself when I'm still recovering. And I wound up a single parent at this time of 4 children.
Oh my gosh.
So then I wound up, once I got her to where she was walking, which she didn't start walking till she was 2, where we got the Mickey button out and she was able to eat on her own, I went ahead and let them go live with their dad and my other 2 so that I could try to work on getting my stuff. And so when Obamacare came out, I was so excited thinking I was going to get insurance. I had gotten enough of my stuff taken care of to where I was able to work. And I actually went in working as a CNA. And I made too much money for the assistance through Obamacare because I didn't have custody of my kids. If I would have had custody of my kids, we would have been on it. But otherwise, I didn't, and they were wanting to charge me $400 a month when I was making like $9, $10 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Plus paying
Wow.
child support for my health insurance. And so that's why I've been such a big proponent of the Medicare for all, because I was not able to get the coverage through Obamacare, and my kids wound up, the twins, they gave them disability immediately when they were born. I tried to get disability when they were about 2, and they said, had you applied for it or had the hospital applied for it right around the time you were released, you would have gotten it. But because you haven't worked, and I couldn't work because they couldn't go to daycare because they were oxygen monitors and high risk of RSV, which my daughter got RSV even with having the shots. She wound up in the hospital. They said basically, had she not had the RSV vaccine, she probably would not have made it through. So that's what saved her life. So I couldn't work because they couldn't go to daycare. And because it had been so long that I'd been out of work, I couldn't qualify for disability.
Wow.
And we recently were going to try again because last March, when all this hit with the COVID, I wound up sick with pneumonia again. And it made me so weak. It drained everything. They had to put me on extra vitamin B12. My hair was coming out. They had me on really strong antibiotics. I was chronically sick. I was going back, getting tests with my stomach issues. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And then I wound up without any of my meds for a while because I was fighting with my insurance company because they weren't wanting to cover my doctor because she fell out of network for a couple months, and I seen her and owed that money so I wound up having to change doctors as well and went like 5 months without medication. That helps me just be able to function to where I can work. And then people look at me, the only scar they can see sometimes is the trach scar. They don't see the others. I've had 4 chest tubes total, a double lung biopsy, PICC line. I had to learn how to walk again, talk again, and eat on my own. And then go home and take care of them.
Wow. Thank you. Oof. Thank you for
This
sharing.
system is violence. That's it.
It is.
Like
It
this
is.
is violence. Every single one of us here has been subjected to violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to finish covering up the panel. We just had David join in. Um, and I just wanted to welcome him also to the panel. David, um, if you don't mind introducing yourself as well as what is the disability that you have. You're muted, by the way. If you can unmute as well.
James, I think you were saying my name well, meaning Ryan.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I apologize, Ryan. I apologies.
Thank you. My name is Ryan McGraw. I have cerebral palsy. And what is the question I am asking? I've been listening, but am unsure about the exact question.
hmm Yeah. So the question was, what have you been dealing with as far as the societal issues of your disability as well as the systemic issues?
Um, it's in society, I feel that society, in most of society, is not prepared to deal with people with disabilities. Like when I go to the doctors, I feel as if my opinions are not listened to, and they
Mm,
dismiss my issues as part of my disability when it may not be a part of my disability. Um, for example, I went to the doctors the about a year ago and they wanted to change my medicine, the dosage of my medicine. And I told them that, I've been on this medication all of my life. Um, However, the doctor persisted in telling me that I needed to cut down on this medication, which could have damaged myself. Um, and so doctors really do not listen to the needs of people with disabilities. When we go into the doctor's office, um, people really need to understand that doctor's offices need to be accessible. Um, the community that I work with and the healthcare community organizer at Access Living, people in wheelchairs talk about not being weighed on a scale for many years because they simply are in a chair and doctor's offices do not have wheelchair accessible scales.
mm,
Um that has is wrong, but it also has implication. How do you know how much dosage of medication to give someone if you do not know their weight. Exam tables are not accessible either. So, hence people in wheelchairs may not be able to get on an exam table.
Mm.
Thus, it makes it tough for them to perform a proper exam. So, let alone not having the insurance they need to get proper treatment because of the Medicaid system. Um it's it's really embarrassing that 31 years after the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, that doctors' offices that serve people with disabilities um at a high rate are not accessible to people with disabilities.
Wow. You know what? That's an amazing point, Ryan. Thank you so much for bringing that out. They are supposed to be the ones who are assisting us the most with our disability. They are the ones that are supposed to be helping us the most, but yet they aren't accessible. Like it doesn't square the circle, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I just want to make sure that I got to everybody regarding these different societal issues. Um, and if anybody has anything, to please speak up. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was um, we we um, a lot of us live in poverty, right? Um, I can go on my personal example. 14 years ago, my kidneys failed. I was diagnosed with nephrotic syndrome when I was 8 years old, and I've been living with chronic kidney failure for the last 14 years. So I go to kidney dialysis. As you can see, you can look at me. I walk. I am mobile. I have very minimal, if any, type of disability versus mentally. I mean, I suffer from some form of depression, but that's about it. And when you look at me, you don't see a disability. My disability is invisible, and that's some of us. And we also get discriminated against. So the people who have mobile and visible disabilities get discriminated against, as well as those of us who have the invisible ones that you don't see. And so I want people to be cognizant of this, as well as the system that we have right now. I want you guys to focus on, like, for instance, as far as last time I checked, people who are taxed for Social Security, you're only taxed up to, I think, about $134,000 of your income,
Yes.
which means people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, uh, uh, Warren Buffett, these billionaires who make billions of dollars, they're not being taxed on their wealth for Social Security disability.
Mhm.
A lot of these hundreds of millionaires, they're not being taxed on those millions of dollars of income that they have for Social Security disability. Meanwhile, a lot of us who are on Social Security disability are living in poverty. In poverty. Some of us, our rent is equal to our disability, which means 100% of our income is going to our housing cost, not to mention the other living expenses. So this is some of the systemic issues that we are dealing with as people with disability. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted this. Because the 76 people that are watching right now, I wanted to give this attention to the people who are here on this panel, and I want to thank you all.
I,
Please, Stephanie, go ahead.
when you were talking about, we're talking about billionaires and millionaires not paying taxes into to these things. It's actually far more insidious and evil because, like, how do you get health insurance when you work at Walmart? You know, like if you work the 35 hours, they put you right at the cutoff where they don't have to offer you health insurance through them. Well, they're having the government subsidize the benefits for the workers that they keep trapped in poverty wages. And so it's way more insidious because these same people who aren't paying into the system to support us are actively pulling from that system to supplement the health and safety of the workers that they aren't even paying a living wage.
And to that point on the living wage thing, in 47 states in the union, it is still legal to pay disabled workers a sub-minimum wage.
Right.
Yes.
And that's including my home state of Kansas. The statute for sub-minimum wage was updated in 2012, but the language for the sub-minimum wage has not changed since 1978. So it has been legal since 1978 in the state of Kansas to pay disabled workers the sub-minimum wage.
Literally less than $1 an hour, if I remember correctly. It's something absolutely obscene, like 28 cents or something like that, and that's mandated federally. Some states have overcome that, but certainly far from all. And just as the labor movement has fought very hard to even get us to a $15 minimum wage, we have to be aware that there are so many people who are left out of that discussion, and we need to expand that. Of course, people who are paid sub-minimum wage because they're working a tip job of some kind, but also people with disabilities, people who have been shunted to this, this independent contractor system and have jobs with Uber or Lyft or what have you. All those people deserve a living wage. But there's no reason whatsoever that Social Security itself shouldn't be a living wage as well. And if you consider what people are asking for, 40 hours a week at $15 an hour at the bare minimum, even if we just go to that bare minimum, that's 4 weeks of that would be $200 or $2,400. That's more than double what I am currently getting from disability right now. And I might not be at the lowest end of it, but I'm not at the highest end either. So I mean, consider the folks who are only getting SSI, not SSDI, and they're only getting about $700 a month. It's inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. We need a living wage for Social Security.
Yes, Joy, please.
So on that note, Saturday, in addition to, our 55 events that are going on, is actually the 12-year anniversary since the minimum wage was put at $7.25. So literally 12 years, the wage has not risen from $7.25. That is so incredibly disgusting. And we're literally watching eugenics of the poor.
Yeah, the system is designed to just say, here, have a little bit, we're going to throw you a bone, and then go away. Because the system does not think we are productive members of society and can give anything to society, that we are just a drain on it. Well, you know what? I haven't heard a single disabled person who wouldn't want to be more productive in society. But you know what? Our lives give to society, our empathy, our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences. It all contributes to society. I was a nuclear engineer in the United States Navy. I'm a highly educated individual. And to be told that because I physically can't work now, I'm a drain on society and I'm not worth anything, well, I've got some words for them.
Please say those words. And if they're
Say
choice
it.
4-letter words, I
They
want you
are
to say it.
they are
Say it.
choice 4-letter words, and it begins with an F.
Oh,
Because
thank
yeah,
you. Thank you. Because guess what? Just because we're disabled doesn't mean that our language is disabled, which means we can say what we need to say.
exactly. And you know what?
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Consider consider this, like Miranda, I'm also highly educated. I have a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a former entrepreneur, but
Mhm.
I can't work like I used to work, and we need to, we need to really examine that. That's not a problem with me. That's a problem with our society not creating
Right
the
on.
accommodations
Yes.
that are necessary for us to be productive in society and for us to give back. I would love to get paid for the activism that I do.
Mhm.
And there are many people who do get paid to do activism work and to do the kind of work that I do. I do a lot of legislative work, talking with people at the city, state, national level to try to change policy on a daily basis. There are people who consider me one of the top housing experts in the state of Illinois, and I'm not getting paid for a lick of that. I do it because it's the right thing to do. But if I were to accept a job that was too low in wage, I could lose my Medicare, which is the only thing that's keeping me alive. I'd rather that everybody have Medicare, that we expand the options on Medicare so that it covers everything it needs to, so
Yes.
we can go from job to job. And I would prefer that we create systems in jobs and in our society that accommodates my needs and the needs of everybody here and all those with disabilities out there, so that we can be flexible and we can create systems that accommodate us and allow us to provide our whatever wonderful things we can provide into the world. And coronavirus showed us that a number of those accommodations are not only possible, but sometimes even necessary. And yet we are seeing those very accommodations being scaled back even as we speak.
And I want
Talk
to
about
make
it.
clear that a college education is not necessary to be a productive or valuable member of our society.
Of course.
Exactly.
Right. Anthony graduated high school ahead of time. He was allowed to graduate early. He did get to walk with his class. He made the honor roll a couple of times in middle school. He's a very intelligent kid. Just because he has cerebral palsy does not mean that his brain is broken. I have worked very, very hard to advocate for him in every area of education that I feel, in every education area of education that he wants support in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I'm going to repeat what I said on July 4th. I don't care if you have an intellectual disability. You can't do anything but just lay in a bed and look at people. You have human value. That is enough. This whole scope and this whole direction on your value as far as the labor that you can produce, absolutely not. You have human value and you deserve that human value to be acknowledged.
Here, here.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and so, and we have brilliant people here on our panel. Just as well, we have brilliant people in the chat. Thank you so much. If you guys have if you guys have questions, then yes, Robert Reed, you can ask your questions right now, and we'll also answer them, as we go along in this chat, because you're also involved in this as well.
I have a question about the march tomorrow. I have an eye out for disability issues, and I would like to know from the panel and from the chat, whoever wants to answer, how can we accommodate people marching with low vision or blind or hard of hearing or deaf or in wheelchairs? What do you need? What do you need from the organization to help you, to accommodate you?
Well, I know as far as myself, when I had to do a GoFundMe against, everything in my being, that was a hard pill to swallow, no pun intended, but to get my blind accessibility equipment and the one reader I needed, all this stuff is prescription. And so it was prescribed. It was literally on a website for the blind. The website is all accessories for the blind. It is, it's literally only for blind people. And when I was checking out, it made me do a CAPTCHA thing or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I was doing the CAPTCHA.
Are you effing kidding me? I'm literally buying a device because of blindness, and you want me to do this. Then, things like when I, especially call the insurance companies, and, you don't get a person, you press 1 for so-and-so, press 3 for so-and-so. Well, I can't see the numbers on my insurance card. So I'll call and they'll say, press 1 for whatever, enter your insurance number. So every time I get it wrong, they disconnect me. So I just have to keep trying and trying, to actually get someone on the phone to say, I can't read my damn card. I don't know. Now I have that equipment. But for a year and a half, I didn't. So it would take me literally 20 tries before I got to a person who could actually help me. So things like that is ableist as hell. If you can't see, you cannot press enter your number. I don't need to enter my number. Press 1 if you want to talk to someone. 1, give me someone. End of story. Why am I being made to do this? So it's things like that. You don't think about, those things you just do like every day, that all of a sudden you're like trying to do them with a blindfold on.
Yeah.
So
like we recently did go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I recently, the ADA council that I serve on here in Topeka, we did a accessibility parking survey, and some of the results that we got, I anticipated. We got about 311 responses on that survey, and a lot of it was, people being parked too close in the van accessible lane.
Yeah.
And our downtown district is a nightmare. That was one of the areas people said that they had the hardest time navigating. And because downtown is a bureaucrat's dream, that if you are parked where you're not supposed to be parked, or if you are parked for too long or whatever, you get a fine, and then a disabled person would also have to deal with that. And so we're going to actually be presenting those findings starting in August to the general public. And I'm going to be representing the council to the city council and the Shawnee County Commission on the findings of our survey that we conducted. So, the system is so ableist towards people with disabilities. And I experience it even with Anthony on a day-to-day basis. People think that because he has a speech impairment that there's something wrong with him, that he's drunk. or something. It's like, no, he's not drunk. He has a speech impairment. He's had a speech impairment since he was born. You know, it's crazy.
Well, and Joe, I'm so glad that you have Anthony at home with you rather than institutionalized, because of the institutional bias that I'm sure we can all speak to, that we've seen, or that we have friends who have been a part of that. I'm grateful that I didn't get trapped in that as part of my bout of homelessness, because I'd probably still be there. And we saw how that devastated the disability community during COVID. As it is, institutionalization already kills people with disabilities.
I worked as
one
a
of our
CNA for 4 years in nursing facilities, rehabilitation facilities, Alzheimer's units. And
Me too.
if you can keep them at home, they're better off most of the time.
we
at
have
home
to
with
put
family.
we have to put home-based care and services into place as part of our expansion of healthcare in this country. It must be part of Medicare for all. And it has to be something that is easily accessible by any one of us. And so many of these problems, like I know, Joe, you were talking about your need for a caregiver or somebody to help out. That's critical. I have somebody who I'm lucky enough to have come a couple of days a week that makes my life easier. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm deathly afraid that if my circumstances change, I lose that. And it is the only thing that honestly allows me the energy to do any of the other things that I do. But how do you prove that to a bureaucrat who only has a checklist to go off of? And that is a major problem with our system.
And most of the time, you guys don't get enough time, because I did home health care too. I mean, I worked and I love the home health care for the most part, but a lot of times you've got people that can't cook for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're given an hour to 2 hours, maybe 3 or 4 days a week. There's no weekend services.
Do you know that when we were offered, or when we were on the waiver, I was allowed 20 hours a month for respite care. 20 hours a month. And they took that away from me too.
Yep.
They took my respite hours away from me. I'm like, so you're taking my regular hours away and my respite hours away? What am I supposed to do here?
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2010, I started working for one of the largest board game companies in the world. And due to my disabilities in 2014, they took me down from a full-time salaried employee to part-time hourly, and dropped my health care, dropped basically any guarantee of a paycheck. And I was given 14 to 20 hours a week that I could work. Anything over 16 had to be approved with no overtime, because, you're part-time. I was based out of Illinois. And then in January of 2015, they fired me because of my disabilities, and they would not allow any accommodations whatsoever. I still had an apartment. I moved down to Champaign, Illinois. And for 3 years, I fought for my SSDI, but I kept a roof over my head. Well, during that time, you can't pay anything else. I went from full, time employment to being underemployed, not able to find a new job because of my disabilities, and to being unemployed and not able to work at all. I had an absolute mental breakdown where I tried to kill myself 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
And I almost got institutionalized, but I had amazing friends who helped me, and they were willing to take custody of me. Well, I got my SSDI, and the apartment complex here in Champaign, Illinois decided that it was no longer good for me to live in my apartment with my disabilities. So they did not renew my lease because they thought it was unsafe for me.
Yeah,
I
and
became homeless. I have been homeless for 2 years, 1 month now.
Wow.
And because of those 3 years of not being able to pay my other bills, but just to pay my rent, never late once on a payment, pay my rent, utilities, and my insurance on my car, I can't get a house. I can't get an apartment. Even a place that told me that, hey, you and one of your partners, if you both qualify, we'll take you. I'm sorry, if even one of you qualifies, we'll take you. No, they ran my credit and said, nope, sorry, just denied. We want him. We don't
Wow.
want you. And I've been dealing with that for over a year now.
Wow.
And so disabled people, because of that debt they incur, because they can't pay their bills, why they wait for their disability, or
Yeah.
they become disabled and they can no longer work, and our paycheck from the government that we freaking earned and we
Okay.
deserve to have because we are human beings.
Yeah.
And to
It's
Okay.
that
so
point,
small.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. My name is last name. I'm going to address something right now, and I'm going to let you know. You said, how about ask your community for help rather than the government for everything? Let me tell you something. The community, I'm going to say this, and I'm quoting my friend Nick. Charity is a is an identifier of a failed state
Mhm.
because because you have to depend on the goodness and the kindness of others. Society should be able to take care of those who are dealing and who are the most disenfranchised. Okay,
Hey, my name.
I'm trying to parse my words here right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because just because we are dealing with this, we shouldn't have to just depend on the community. No, 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 no. The community, the government is part of that community, and so therefore we are citizens, and so therefore we should also be taken care of as well.
You know what? We have a
We have a
government
right.
by the
Hold on.
people for
Let
the
me finish. Let
people.
me finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
We are disabled, and we have a right as citizens to be taken care of in this country because we are citizens in this country. We are part of society. We contribute to society. So yes, okay, we're going to ask our government because they represent us as well. We are their bosses. So that's
thank
all I'm
you.
going to say. Okay,
You know.
please go
and
ahead.
Yeah. So
the fact is
We're all
that
poor. Like
Ryan,
we
please
we
go
don't have
ahead.
the
do
same $5 around.
we
Like
do
when I ask
not
my
pay
Ha-
home care workers
mhm,
enough in this country.
mhm,
And one of the things that we're trying to push through now is the Better Care Better Jobs Act,
mhm,
um, which would invest $400 billion into home income home care. The thing is that these workers are making between 10 and $15 an hour. They are poverty rate. Everyone that I know who uses home care is having issues um getting good quality personal assistance.
mhm,
And that's because the pay is so long. I just got a text from a friend saying that her PA has been coming to work drunk. I get another, I was talking to another friend saying that they were asking her for money. And so many people are having trouble finding good quality PAs, and we don't want charity. We want good quality workers that can that helps us out.
Mhm.
Or really it's PAs are supposed to be employed by the person with the disability. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Great point.
Thank
And I
you.
have a couple of points I'd like to make.
I've got a few too.
Please,
Okay.
please make them.
Okay, the first point is I pay taxes just the same as everybody else does. When I
Mhm.
go pay my utilities, I pay taxes on my utilities. When I pay my phone bill, I pay taxes on my phone bill. Okay? I pay taxes when I go to the grocery store to buy regular stuff like dishwashing liquid and stuff like that. I deserve to draw from the same pool that I pay money into. The only thing I don't pay taxes on is food assistance and medical assistance. Me and Anthony get that because through the state. Okay? I deserve to draw from the same pool I put money into.
Exactly.
And then second point is when we do universal home and community based supports for people with disabilities, we need to put in there a standard of care that care attendants must have before they apply for the job. That means that there needs to be continuing education credits. That means that they need to be trained before they come in, because here in Kansas, it's self-directed care, and we are tasked with training the care attendants that come into our house, and they should not have to be we should not have to have that onus put on us. It should be put on the agencies that hire these financial management services. It's their responsibility. It's the state's responsibility to make sure that we are getting care attendants that are trained and know what they're doing.
And
If they
here's
don't know what
one,
they're doing, then they do not need to be applying for these kind of jobs. And yes, we do need better pay. Here in Kansas, the cap is $9.30 an hour for a care attendant, and no benefits.
yeah.
A disabled person is not a drain on our society. We deserve respect. We deserve a life of dignity.
Yes.
We don't want charity. We want to be recognized as human beings deserving of respect. And you know what? To have to go to the community for charity, have you ever lived that life? Let me tell you what that's like in great detail here, real
Oh,
fast stuff.
please.
Because you know what? Every day of my life for 3 years, I went to a food pantry to get enough food so that I could eat that day. I was waiting on my SSDI to come in because I was too disabled to work due to military injuries, due to other things that are so beyond my control that I didn't cause them to myself. And even if I did, I'm still a human being. If I was in a car accident and became a paraplegic, would you be telling me that, oh, you don't deserve to live? Well, guess what? We all deserve to live. We deserve a life of dignity. We deserve a life of respect and to be recognized and not have to go to other low income, impoverished people who can't afford their own health care, who can barely put food on their tables, who have to work 2 or 3 jobs in order to get their kids through school, to put clothes on their back and to keep their house heated in the wintertime in order to have that health care. That is what our government is for. That is what we pay taxes for. Not the wars going on, not all this other crap, but to help our people and society. So you know what you can do with your, why don't you go to the community for help? You can shove it up your ass.
Woo!
Okay. All right.
2 thumbs up for that one.
And to one of Ryan's points, when he was talking about the home health care,
Yes.
having the experience of being a home health care aide, a lot of these facilities, they only pay you for the time that you're there. They don't pay you for drive time.
No, they don't.
They don't pay you mileage if you're taking them to the grocery store to go do their grocery, go do their laundry. I would be working here in town with one, and they'd call me and want me to drive 45 minutes, an hour away to go spend another hour or two with another one. Well, you're not paying me for the drive time, so why are you? I mean, they would shoot me all over Northwest Arkansas, and they'd send me to the people they couldn't get other aides to go in, and I'd take care of them.
All of
That's
these
my
aides,
husband.
yeah. All of
Jenna,
these aides, all of these workers, they need to be unionized. They need
Trained,
to have
unionized.
training. They need to be supported. They need to be given real job benefits and a real job, because these are some of the most important jobs for so many of us, not just amongst our community, but in the elder care community as well, which we know is going to just be increasing as the baby boomers continue to retire. That work is real, and it's serious work, and it's about the love and dignity of our community in the most real way that we could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
So I got a question actually for the panel.
Just 1 second. Jenna Crest, I want to thank you for your super chat. Best to all, Medicare March for Medicare for all participants this Saturday. Solidarity from Canada. Thank you so much. Also, I love your profile picture with Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that.
I love my emotional support Canadians. They're amazing.
Another thing with having the COVID, like they're expecting a tsunami of COVID survivors going on disability because of the long term and the long haulers.
So I got a question for the panel, actually.
Sure.
How many of you, I'll admit, I have PTSD about going to a new doctor. How many of you had to educate a supposed specialist or doctor that you've been referred to about your own disabilities?
I have to for Anthony.
I have literally said the phrase to a doctor before that I have had diabetes longer than you have been practicing medicine. Shut up.
Yeah. Okay. So I transferred because I'm trying to move to Detroit. And I transferred my care from the Veterans Administration here in Central Illinois to Detroit. And I see a pain specialist. I'm highly allergic to all NSAIDs. I mean, all NSAIDs. Topical, swallow, doesn't matter, all NSAIDs. And I've been on oxycodone for 20 years because that's the only thing I can take to manage my pain besides fentanyl.
Wow.
Right. I was up to 60 milligrams 3 times a day. As well, I've been on it for 20 years. And I'm a larger woman. Got into the VA in Detroit, and because I was on that dosage, they wouldn't even look at my records from Central Illinois VA. And the VA is the Veterans Administration, for those who aren't aware. And they just told me I was an addict and had to come off of it. And that's all they would do. And they kept trying to give me medication I'm allergic to because they thought I was lying about it. Even though my doctor said it's been well documented since 2001. And all of my doctors on here wrote transfer of care instructions and what's going on. And I got this full history. They wouldn't even look at it. I was just pill seeking and trying to get, I was addicted. Trying to get somebody to listen to you about your own disabilities. And, it was spoken about earlier by Ryan, about the medications that actually work and why they work. A new doctor, we're looked at, we're stupid. Like we don't know what we're talking about, that we don't know anything about our own disabilities. And that they know more than us, when most of the time, like with my autoimmune diseases, I have the most severe case of mine, which is unusual. They don't believe it. They think, oh, you just have dry eyes. I said, no, I have Sjogren's syndrome. And Sjogren's syndrome has been in the news a lot lately because of Serena Williams, the tennis player. She has it. And what it does is any lubricating functions of the body, it attacks, and your immune system sees it as something to kill. How much of your body is water? How much of your body is lubricating in some way? Every single cell. And it attacks every single cell in my body.
Wow.
Yet I can't get them to, for the most part, to see past dry eyes and dry mouth. And as soon as I get that, I walk out. Trying to find a doctor as a disabled person to listen and actually see past your weight and whatever that checklist is a very big systemic issue.
What you were talking about with pill-seeking behavior, that is a huge problem that seems to be really gendered, too.
It is, too.
I feel like there are so many times that I have gone in for pain that has actually had to do with like internal organ swelling, like something not immediately visible or something like that.
Right.
And I'll be like having like breathing pains from the swelling, right? And they'll be like, "Oh, you're just like you should just take Klonopin." Right? Like
right.
And then when I try to go to the doctor for like my anxiety and panic disorder, they're like, "Oh, you should not be prescribed Klonopin." And then I'm like, "Okay, but my back hurts." And they're like, "Oh, here's the Klonopin."
Right. And or they're like, "Oh, you need gabapentin or Lyrica," despite the fact it's on my allergy list. Because when I take it, up is down, left is right. I can't. My senses are 100% scrambled.
Yeah, I experienced vertigo from gabapentin.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Like, they were like, "Isn't that better than anxiety?" And I'm like, "No, I'm like,
no. I'd rather have the anxiety. Thank you. But the problem with the
we should. And we should recognize too that James is the only person of color, at least apparently, on this panel.
Wait, David.
There's huge disparities among race as well, as was pointed out in the chat.
I was just getting to that.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the population of the Detroit Veterans Administration is low-income people of color. So for me, I'm a low-income white woman. I actually think I probably got a better bit of care from them than what the people of color did, because the policy of that VA is they will not prescribe opiates, period, because everybody must be an addict, and that's a systemic racism policy, because the majority of their audience and the majority of their patients is low-income people of color. Yeah. Go 1 hour away to the Ann Arbor VA. It's not that way. Come here to Central Illinois, where the majority of their patients are white people. It's not that way. But go to Chicago, to the Jesse Brown VA pain clinic up there, and it's that way. And the majority of their people are people of color that they see.
Thank you so much for bringing that out.
Can I just say quick, the leads on the National March team, who thankfully I'm very proud to be one of them, we came up with a list of demands. And one of those demands is showing that article after article shows proof that Black women are the #1 group of people who suffers under this violent system. So one of our demands is to end the inequities in this so-called healthcare system. So before I forget, I want everyone to go to our March website. As soon as you go, the petition pops up. I am going to be notarizing it and sending it to the House and sending it to the Senate. So the more signatures, the better. So if you could go to M4, as in a number 4. So m4all.org. Sign the petition. And also, while you're there, you can check out one of the 55 locations we have for our events on Saturday. But also, before I finish, I want to say to that, Jay, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
That person in the chat. So,
your first name ain't Savage for no reason.
I didn't name myself. I mean, my audience did. So you're incredibly privileged, obviously, and with you obviously have no idea how humbling and absolutely humiliating it is. You have to check your pride to be like, I mean, the thought of asking for help, you have no clue how hard that is. It's something that you have to deal with because you feel guilty. You feel like, oh my God, there's people so much worse off than me. Why do I think that I deserve, to ask for this? And you're the kind of person, let's just keep it real, who would share an article of like a little girl selling lemonade to get her mom cancer treatment and calling it a feel-good story. That's the kind of person you are. I can tell. And that's not cute. That's not a good way to be.
He's the kind of person who shares that stupid meme about putting the grocery cart away. Guys all know the one I'm talking about, that talks about the kind of person they are, and they are if they don't put the grocery cart away. Well, you know what? Screw that. By the time I'm done walking through the grocery store, I barely have the energy to drive home. I sit down in my car and go, I need a break for a minute.
Yeah.
I get home. I sit there for a few minutes in the car because I'm so exhausted from driving from the grocery store. And I'm privileged because I have a car, that I have a place to park it easily in the driveway right now, because I'm staying with friends who have one. Not because I have my own, because I doubt I ever will. Because our system makes it so I can't.
I want to give a shout out and thank you to Joe Musashi. I do not want to butcher your name, but I'm going to pronounce it as best as I can. Musashi. Thank you so much. He said, my name is my last name. He gives no money to support his community. What a joke. Healthcare is expensive. The government uses money for war. They can use money to help the disabled. You judge society by how they treat its weakest members. God bless this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Look, this panel is so good. Oh, you guys, you're some beautiful people. I gotta say. We need to talk about Medicare for all.
We do.
This weekend, we will be having the Medicare for All March, that it will be on July 24th in over 50 cities. I dare you, I challenge you to be out there to march, not just for people who but march for people that you don't even know. I want you to march for people who need health care from the womb to the tomb. March for those embryos that haven't been born yet.
Exactly.
March for those people who are right at the end of their life, who need to be comforted as they see the sun set in their own eyes. I want you to march for those people. March for every people. March for the people who you don't agree with. March for the people that you don't like. March for them, because they deserve healthcare too. Because we deserve healthcare as well as all the other things that we have within this group. We are coming up on the end of this stream. I am so sorry that I wanted to get to so much more. But we're reaching the 9 o'clock hour.
We can plan a part 2.
We could
I would
plan
happy
a part.
to do one.
I mean, we could plan a part 2. I'm not opposed to a part 2. We can always do this again. And definitely, I got all your emails. I got every single one of your emails.
I need at least a week off after co-organizing 55 marches.
You don't get a week
At
off. No,
least.
you don't even get a week off. We
No,
like
you can't
too
have
much.
any time off,
You're
Joyce.
coming back. You're coming back, Joy, tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. But I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I am so sorry I didn't get to everybody in the chat. I've been trying to be consistent with, pulling up everybody's comments. But I just want to thank all of you. And look, talk about this with everyone that you know. Spread this information. Look, I have the button here, March for Medicare for All button. Okay, I got it. Wear it while you're out. If you have a hat, if you have the merch, wear it while you're out. If people ask questions, talk about it. Because the thing is that healthcare affects every single one of us because we are all human beings. And it doesn't mean that you have to be disabled to care about it. You can be the healthiest person in the world. You're going to need healthcare one day. And it's going to affect you.
It will.
Yeah.
And
Any
can I
last
just say really quick?
Please, I want last thoughts from everybody.
So we have over 200 speakers, and musicians and such as well, but over 200 speakers. And I know, a lot of the big celebrities we have are getting the attention, and I get that, but I want people to be very aware that each and every demonstration that's going on has people like us telling their stories. So we may not be known, but I'm emceeing the DC march, for instance. You're going to hear from someone who has a traumatic brain injury and deals with horrible medical debt. You're going to deal with someone who lost their son to suicide because his insurance lapsed and he couldn't pay $20 for his antidepressant. You are going to hear these stories. You're going to hear from a doctor of mental health who's going to share how many suicides could be prevented if we had Medicare for all. You're going to hear from a conservative who is flying in from Utah, who has written books on our need for Medicare for all. Okay, this is serious stuff. So please note that one of the reasons we organize these things is not just because we like Medicare for all, but it's also because we're trying to be voices for the voiceless. I mean, people need to be heard. They need to, and far too long, they haven't been. So the more, we started out with one march. That's it, one in January. And now we're at 55 events because people kept reaching out, saying their story, saying they want to start a march, stuff like that. So please go out on Saturday. Find your nearest location at m4m4all.org. And thank you to everyone who has been so supportive of our organizing. And thank you to Jay. Fred Hampton Leftist has been I think I've been on this channel 5 times a week for the past month to talk about the marches. You guys are so supportive, and it means everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank the super chat from Yolanda Derry. Thank you so much. I also want to get to the other super chat that just came in. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hang on. Whew. You guys are commenting so much. Thank you for Cyrus76. You all are so strong. Never give up. Keep amplifying the voices that need to be heard. And then we also have another super chat that just came in from Alan. Alan, thank you so much for the super chat. Please, last thoughts. Anybody, please jump in. Ryan, please, if your last thoughts, please. You're muted. So you can unmute yourself real quick.
Oh, this would definitely a great discussion, and more voices like this need to be heard. I mean, I mean, in getting the word out there that we need Medicare for all. This is just um 10 people's stories. I mean, there's millions of stories exactly like ours that need to be told. And as long as the power of the people is real, for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Uh, Anybody else, please jump in. Your last thoughts before we close this out. Uh, Please go ahead.
I'm in Arkansas. We'll be doing the Fayetteville, Arkansas March.
Hmm.
I'll be the one heading that one. So I'll be talking more there about some of the stuff and some of the stuff that we talked about tonight. One of my biggest things for kind of pushing myself and making myself get out there and get comfortable speaking has been the fact that I know that so many of the COVID survivors are going to experience a lot of what we have.
Hmm.
And I think if we yell big enough, maybe we can make some changes to where, for those of us that have been dealing with this for years, they won't have to deal with it as long, won't have to fight as long.
Hmm. Joe, you had something to say?
Yes. Please remember in your conversations around Medicare for All to also include universal home and community-based supports
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
supporting the caregivers that
Yes.
take
Yeah.
care of people with disabilities, because it is a very lonely existence for some of us. And, I wanted to make a point earlier that, I could work, but I can't. And I can't even get paid for taking care of Anthony. And if I did get paid for taking care of Anthony, then it would affect certain things that I'm on.
Hmm.
So, support us, support the caregivers. We need the support too.
Yes. Yes. Also, please, let's talk about expanding Social Security to a living income.
Yes.
Okay, because there's absolutely no reason as to any of the most disenfranchised people in this country to be living in poverty. Please, anybody else continue. Your
I
last thought.
speak up for those who can't speak up. It's
Hmm.
important to hear our voices, and it's important for even for able-bodied people to hear our voices. People are born with disabilities. People develop them later in life or early in life. You never know when it's going to hit, and it can be catastrophic. We need Medicare for all. Honestly, it will save our country immensely in money. It will save our country immensely in productivity, which everybody screams is the biggest thing in the world. But getting health care for everybody will make us a much greater country and better people all around.
Mhm.
Thank you for letting me be here and talk today and hearing my story.
Hmm. Stephanie, you had something to say?
Yeah. And I want to thank you, all of you, um,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for this. It's so amazing to be able to talk about these things. And one of the most refreshing things about getting in a group like this is that uh, I think almost everybody mentioned mental health in a way that was just matter of fact.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
it's really, really important that when we're talking about things like Medicare for All, we do talk about mental health as a holistic part of health. When we talk about disability, whether it be something that we're born with through an accident or anything like that, it has a huge impact on our mental health, on our sense of self, on our
Mhm.
relationships. And so thinking about Medicare for all, um, as not just a way for us to heal our bodies, which we all deserve, right? But also as a way for us to actually make healthier communities, because we're going to have healthier minds and healthier connections if we have health care. So I just really want to thank you all so much for being so amazing and just talking about these issues in a way that doesn't come from a place of pity, and instead comes from a place of strength and resilience and experience. So thank you all.
And
You guys are all warriors, all of you. Like, I've never met any of you, but like I feel this immense connection to all of you. You're amazing.
We are all worthy. We are all worthy people.
Let me say, I do recognize the amazing strength that is in this panel. I thank Cyrus for the comments about our strength and the comments that we've all seen in the chat about our strength. But the point of fact is that we shouldn't have to be this strong just to survive, and that's exactly what we're all fighting for. We're asking for those systems that will allow us to be just as anybody else, equitable systems, and we have to keep fighting for that. Part of that is Medicare for all. Part of that is expanding what Medicare even covers in the first place. Part of that is making sure that we all can be, out in community as we were promised more than 3 decades ago by the ADA, and living in homes with that home-based care. Part of that is having a living wage for Social Security and getting rid of those asset caps. There are all sorts of systemic things that we can talk about that affect people with disabilities, and we can literally have panels like this every week and still be talking for a long time. So, I absolutely, we need to keep having these conversations. James, thank you so much for putting this together and putting all these incredible people in a room together so that we can have these discussions. I do hope that there are follow-ups on it. But, as we go out there and we march on Saturday, the best thing that you can remember is, we need to make sure not just that we are speaking for the voiceless, but to me, one of the deepest sins that we commit as a society is silencing those who do have a voice or should have a voice. And so we have to make sure that we are having panels like this, that we are getting people who haven't spoken to tell us their stories so that we can understand that disability is a very individual experience, but we can, as a society, start to craft ways that we can make sure that every individual is valued, prized, and really lifted up and from these conditions that are inexcusable for any first world nation.
Yes. Thanks to Alan Bigler for your super chat. I think we got another one. If I'm missing one, you guys are. Oh my God, so many chat. Okay, Christina Suzo. I sorry if I mispronounced your name. I love and respect all of you. I have 4 very rare diseases, and Medicare for all is a human right. I'll be watching your march. Thank you so much for that as well.
I'll be marching tomorrow. This is Kathy. I will be marching for tomorrow. And after that, I am going to be marching and working to vote out the legislators who keep taking the lobby money, the insurance and the big pharma money. They gotta go. We're never going to get anywhere. They gotta go.
Yes. Preach.
Yes.
And I'm old. I don't know if I'll see the end of this, but I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight to the end. Yeah, I am, James. I'm old.
Look. Yeah, but you know what? You still got fighting you, and we love you for it. We love you for it.
Oh yeah, the older I get, the pissier I get.
Never ever lose your
That's what I
sense of
wanna hear.
outrage.
That's what I
That
need
needs
to
to be
hear.
on a T-shirt.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I love it.
Kathy, one of my favorite social justice sayings comes from the Jewish tradition. It says, "You are not obligated to finish the work, but nor are you able to let it go." So, for what it's worth, I know I see you out there all the time fighting like hell. You're not. You may or may not see the end of this fight, but I know that you're in it, and that alone is an incredible mitzvah. And I thank you for that, and I thank all the rest of you for fighting as well. I know you're out there as well. We certainly all are looking for a better world here.
Thank you. Anybody else that they want to add anything before we go?
Oh, Rose Against the Machine.
Oh my gosh. On behalf of the gamer who couldn't send a super chat, thank you
Aw,
so
that
much.
is really sweet.
This is one of my co-hosts, Jackie. Thank you so much,
Oh,
FHL co-host
Jackie.
Jackie. Thank you so much. And listen, all of you activists that are in the chat right now and listening, thank you for all you do, for all you organizers. March for Medicare for All organizers, including you, Savage Joy. Thank you for putting your life on hold for something so important for the rest of us. I just want to thank the panel, and this has been a privilege of mine to have you all on. And yes, we will do this again, and I will do this again soon because this has inspired me to do this again. And I would like to do this as well as add more people to this roster. Um, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. Up another super chat. Thank you so much, RJ, friends to the show. Friends to the show, co-host to FHL. RJ, love you back, bro. Thank you so much. And guys, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to end this here because we're going on long, and I got dialysis tomorrow. I got to go to bed soon.
Take care, everybody.
So
Keep
take
fighting
care,
the
everybody.
good
Take care.
fight. Be safe.
Thank
All right,
you.
and
Thank you.
Good, folks.
see you
Much
all on
love.
Saturday. By the way, Meg, FHL co-host Meg and I, we are going to be live streaming from the FHL on FHL from the Medicare for All March in Orlando, Florida. So we will be
okay.
there, and I want you guys to watch as well. Sabby Sabs is going to be doing it from Boston. Um, Socialist MMA Nick is going to be doing it from Kansas. And so I want you guys to all tune in. And yeah, so that is it. This is James Fauntleroy from FHL. Thank you so much on this special and have a great evening.